Out of nowhere yesterday, Lane Kiffin tweets out this article. And what I saw in this article about the Ohio State Buckeyes, it was rather fascinating to say the least. Because immediately, I shifted my focus to, wait a minute. This is why TreVeyon Henderson came back. I'm going to highlight this for you right here. This is what stood out to me. To retain. Well. What do we have here? You might want to get your popcorn ready for this one. Now let me just say this at the beginning of the video because I know you're going to have Ohio State fans already run to the comment section. Just hear me out before you say anything, okay? Hear me out. There's a lot to this situation that we're going to talk about, but I also want you to wait until I give you my opinion and thoughts on it as well. And oh yeah, by the way, we're not doing no intro, none of that. I don't got time to waste. You don't got time to waste either. This is the one and only topic we're going over and talking about. If you like college football content and you want to be kept up to date all throughout the offseason, relatively simple. Consider subscribing to the channel. We'd love to have you here. We're just a bunch of guys and girls that like talking about college football, so if that does interest you, you know what to do. Let's get straight into it, though. Ohio State, the past few days, to say they've done an excellent job in the recruiting landscape and the transfer portal, that'd be understating it. In reality, they've done something that I've never seen in all my years of covering the sport. They have done nothing short of dominate the transfer portal, and that is the best word to use. And to a certain extent here, a little foreshadowing, they've somewhat exploited it, and we'll get to that in just a second. And whoa, yet again, I can already smell the Ohio State fans run to the comment section. I told you, hear me out. I have not stated one time in this video up until this point that you have cheated, so just calm down, buddy, calm down. Nobody has said that, but let me catch you up to speed on things and what has transpired in these past couple of weeks. Ohio State's quarterback Kyle McCord, who I thought was pretty good this year, he enters the portal, and in no time whatsoever, Ohio State gets Will Howard, Kansas State's former quarterback. Solid pickup, very solid pickup, but then the news comes out that you're getting Ole Miss's star running back, one of the best running backs in the nation, Quinshon Judkins. That was amazing. I don't even need to say much more about Quinshon Judkins. You know the dude can play. And oh yeah, can't forget to mention, throw in there, and this is highly important, your other star running back, TreVeyon Henderson, he announces he's coming back. And I personally like TreVeyon Henderson a tad bit more than Judkins, but the bottom line is you got two of the top 5 running backs in the nation on one team. That's utterly ridiculous. And then out of nowhere, a couple days ago, you get Caleb Downs. Everybody and their mama thought he was going to Georgia, but he shocks the country and commits to Ohio State. Getting Caleb Downs was the cherry on top. You didn't even consider really getting him, but when you got him, it's like, oh yeah, we'll take that. No problem whatsoever. But if somehow, some way you still weren't satisfied with getting Caleb Downs, you then get former 5-star plus recruit, not just a 5-star, but 5-star plus recruit, Julian Sayin from Alabama as well. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it doesn't get too much better than that. Ryan Day, he put on a masterclass, and I gotta give him a ton of respect and credit. I have given him a hard time on the channel recently, but I may need to backtrack just a little bit because he's done a heck of a job this year in the transfer portal. But, and I have a really big but, here's where things really, and I mean really, start to get interesting. And before we get into this, let me make this clear. Ohio State getting all these players, I didn't think too much about it. I didn't think something shady was going on because it makes sense. Ohio State's a top program. My point is in saying that it's not out of the ordinary for Ohio State to get multiple top recruits, even if it is from the transfer portal. Well, then ironically enough, out of nowhere yesterday, Lane Kiffin tweets out this article in which it states, as you can see right here, Ohio State Buckeyes spent $13 million and counting in NIL money in an attempt to field an elite roster. Yeah. That's a big deal, and it especially had my eyes open even more when I saw Lane Kiffin tweet this out. If you have Twitter, you already know this. Lane Kiffin, he's tweeting BS and nonsense all the time. He trolls and whatnot, but this, it wasn't a troll. Let me clarify for the people that don't have Twitter. Lane Kiffin didn't come up with this report. He just reposted it. And I had a couple people sending this to me saying, yo, Matt, you got to check this out. What do you think about it? And of course, like anybody else, it piqued my interest, so I checked it out. And what I saw in this article about the Ohio State Buckeyes, it was rather fascinating to say the least. Let's start on with this, shall we? The boosters and NIL collectives of the Ohio State Buckeyes have reportedly spent $13 million in NIL money to retain and/or add elite players to their 2024 roster. I'm going to highlight this for you right here. This is what stood out to me. To retain. Because immediately, I shifted my focus to, wait a minute. This is why TreVeyon Henderson came back. And I was telling myself, okay, yeah, that's making more sense. But then I also thought about this. Emeka Egbuka, remember? He came back. So then I shifted my focus to Emeka Egbuka, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why he came back as well. And there's a couple other players I could mention, but those were the two that stuck out to me. It's starting to make sense. But let's continue along here. And the very ironic part about all this is, and this comes with some facts and evidence, in 2022, Ryan Day stated, $13 million is the exact number Ohio State Buckeyes are going to need to compete. So that right there should go to prove and tell you right now, this shouldn't be something that is unbelievable and hard to fathom, because Ryan Day has already stated, hey, we need $13 million just to compete. We're not even talking about winning championships. We're talking about just compete. He stated that in 2022. Fast forward in time into 2024, the offseason just started, and they've already spent $13 million. Who knows what the final total is going to come to? Here's what Ryan Day has also stated, quote unquote. If the speed limit's 45 miles per hour and you drive 45 miles per hour, a lot of people are going to pass you by. If you go too fast, you're going to get pulled over. Interesting to say the least from your head coach here. Also worth being thrown in there, Ryan Day has previously stated a top-tier college quarterback was about roughly $2 million, which then had me thinking about Will Howard. Did they give him $2 million? I have no idea. But if they didn't give him $2 million, they more likely gave him at least, what, let's say 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, something like that. Day also went on to say that elite offensive tackles and edge rushers were about $1 million. Day was spot on, if not a little bit under his original estimate in 2022, as he's now spent $13 million to return one of the best rosters in college football. This report's wrong. This is not one of the best rosters in college football. This is the best roster in all of college football, and it's not even close. It is being stated that it is unclear how the $13 million was distributed amongst the Ohio State roster. The money required to keep players that could have been drafted on the top of the transfer portal recruits reportedly adds up to that $13 million, meaning there's a lot of disparity in how much certain players are getting paid, and that's obvious. Of course, a guy like Emeka Egbuka is going to be getting top dollar compared to somebody else. But I did find it interesting because I didn't even think about that. Of course, they're giving these guys like Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, and Will Howard, they're cutting them a nice little check, which I have no problem with whatsoever. But I forgot to take into account they're also paying these guys like Henderson and Egbuka to come back. And I didn't even think about that, but it just goes to show I got to get used to the new reality of college football. It's the NFL JV. And when you think about it from Henderson and Emeka Egbuka's perspective, it makes a ton of sense to come back, especially if you're going to get paid. TreVeyon Henderson and Egbuka would probably be in best case scenario, late first round to more than likely mid second round picks. And let's just say for the sake of this video, they would have been second round picks. You're not necessarily talking about top dollar there. They would have got a nice check, don't get me wrong, but if you can still get paid while playing at Ohio State, get better, and improve your draft stock, why not come back? And I know some people are going to throw in there, well, also, Matt, you forgot to throw in there, they can potentially win a championship, and dude, come on, man. TreVeyon Henderson and Emeka Egbuka, the last thing on their mind is winning a national championship. It'd be nice. I'm not saying they wouldn't value it, but it's not top priority. They want money, and so does everybody else walking this planet. And if you think I'm wrong, I guarantee you, if TreVeyon Henderson was told, hey, you're going to be selected within the first 15, 20 picks, he'd have been out of there. It is what it is. I ain't mad at him, but let's check out what people are saying on Twitter about this, because you know it's stirring up a storm for obvious reasons. Jim here said, the lack of action from the NCAA is ruining college football. Well, Jim, I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but this is totally legal. And I'll tell you what, this may be an unpopular opinion or take, but I'm all here for it. I have no problem with this whatsoever. Why was the NIL created? So we can pay players. What is Ohio State currently doing? Paying players. So why should I be upset? There's no reason whatsoever, if you're a college football fan, to be upset at Ohio State for doing this. None. They're playing by the rules that were implemented by the NCAA. What more do y'all want? Now, whether this is good for the game or not, that is a completely different conversation for a different day. I personally don't like it because it creates an uneven playing field. Let's just say, theoretically speaking, Quinshon Judkins narrowed his options down to Tulane and Ohio State. You see what I'm saying? Tulane couldn't afford to pay him $1 million, but Ohio State, they can do it and not even sweat about it. That's just an example. So from a recruiting standpoint, yeah, your big dogs are going to be taking all these guys. But let's have a serious conversation here. Nothing about the game is going to change too much. When, if ever, were 5 stars even considering going to a smaller school, like I said, Tulane? Every now and then you got a highly touted 5-star recruit go to a lower college, but it's still rare. In college football, your big dogs will continue to be your big dogs. Your teams like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, whoever, those are going to be the teams competing for a championship. Nothing's going to change. The last time I checked, a Power 5 team has won the national championship the last, I don't know how many years, but it's been a long time. Has a non-Power 5 team ever won a championship? I have no idea. And I think you could also make a serious, legit case and argument that paying these guys didn't affect too much because more likely they still would have highly considered Ohio State. With NIL or without NIL, Ohio State was going to continue to get top recruits and top wide receivers. The only thing that's changing, in my humble opinion, is these players are finally getting paid for putting on a performance, which they should have been always getting paid since day one. And I'll show you another comment right here. Some people are stating that the NIL is already out of control, and I see where you're coming from. I think it's been out of control. An example I always think about is, remember Pittsburgh's wide receiver Jordan Addison won the Biletnikoff at Pittsburgh. He winds up going to USC because they offered him, I think it was like $2.5 million to $3 million in a house. And the funny thing about it is Jordan Addison had a worse year the next year at USC than he did at Pittsburgh the previous season. College football is slowly but surely becoming about the money, and it's such a gray area because I want these guys to get paid, but I don't necessarily like some of the things they're doing. I might as well show you this. This news just came out, and it goes hand in hand with our situation. CJ Stroud, y'all know CJ Stroud, quarterback for the Texans, had an amazing rookie season. I think he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He has already donated between $50,000 and $100K to the Ohio State's collective. I thought that was unique, and I like that because he's giving back to the school and program that it came from. Wild times, though, man. Wild times that we're in. I do like certain things about the NIL, but I also don't like certain things about the NIL. There's a lot to it, and you know what? We'll do this. I'll leave it up to you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. But roll it.